Hello, welcome back to another video everyone is currently watching right now. We're back again on 25th of April over here around 9:57 p.m. right now as I'm recording this. So today we are actually here to talk about the new anniversary patch 4.2 and the plans that we basically had. Okay, the reasons why that we had to skip Dahlia and why did we needed to skip Super Break. And I know that a lot of the times that I have said in the past that in the streams and etc, most of the time that I was actually down to get Dahlia, by the way, right? Because I did wanted to get Firefly, and I did get Firefly E0S1 because I liked her a lot. But what is the whole entire reason why that we had to drop Super Break as the reason, and we had to focus on the new Elation battleship itself? Because okay, so here's the most important thing about it is that I personally do think that the fact that we did not really had Dahlia, and because the rerun banner that came out with for Dahlia was actually during the time of Silversuperwolf SP's release, and the whole entire reason of us having that itself in a same phase itself was kind of actually sucked for us, because personally that we wanted to have Silverwolf SP for the whole entire patch itself. So we personally thought, and because the leak speculated and a lot of people were excited to know that we would hope that maybe Silverwolf as a character for the anniversary main push character would most likely be the whole entire patch, because why not, you know, they had two other characters from 4.0 to 4.1 that was lasted for the whole entire patch. So entirely we were very excited about that kind of stuff, so we thought that okay, yeah, we could totally afford Dahlia and just move on with it. But that was not really the case. Then we got to know that at the very last few days of the patch's release that we were like, okay, we're not going to be able to get Dahlia because we have to drop that character and go for the main push character because we have no choice. But aside from that situation that we did not just had that, but at the same time we also got to figure out from a couple other people who already had the Super Break lineup, and Super Break battleship itself was saying things like the E0 Firefly's battleship with Dahlia and etc is not as equivalent to as good as anymore unless your Firefly itself has an E2 on herself. Then you maybe have considered an E0 Dahlia or E2 Dahlia aside of all those higher constellation on your Lingsha and Fugue, or like an E0 Lingsha or Fugue. Then it's kind of like makes kind of sense that you're on par with the new DPS that came out with the battleship in Elation itself. Then you have enough damage to actually clear the end games. But we figured out that the E0 Firefly that we have, even if we regardless get Dahlia, right, and we lose out on Silverwolf SP not being able to get, I think it would suck for us a lot personally. And this is not because we did not want to actually make the same kind of mistake that we did previously before by getting a battleship that's not just old, but the fact that people do say that an E2 Firefly is what's literally doable in most endgames currently right now, and it's as good to have that kind of level. Only then you can consider for like Dahlia and the whole entire team itself. Then you feel like okay, yeah, it's doable for endgames and etc. by the way, right? But the team itself is pretty old enough for us to not go back on it so old and etc. right? And because of that decisions and etc, we had to just drop Dahlia off. No matter how pretty and how good she is, she felt like for an E0 Firefly haver like me, it's not going to be worth it for me to go after her team this late, like Dahlia, Lingsha and etc this late. And I know that I'm going to be regretting later because of me wasting my not just Jades but the best patches to get good characters rather than going back on the old ones. And because I don't have the E2, do I want to consider the E2 later and screw even more later, you know? So the plan was for me to just move forward with new characters, and Silverwolf SP was a very good character personally for me, is because not just that she's an imaginary character, but a lot of people speculated and said that the Elation itself is like a niche kind of like break super break kind of like lineup that's niche apparently, but it's not entirely break, by the way. It's kind of like a break apparently, but in general it's more like a follow-up type kind of a elation, by the way. In general it's like a follow-up, by the way. Yeah, but the whole entire mechanic and gameplay is very interesting for us in general, because it's kind of like a niche break and it has that effect to it, because the both Sparksy and Silverwolf SP is kind of like a very good character they built under like the perfect element that we wanted a lot, because Sparksy as a fire DPS was just perfect for us to have, so that we can all move on from what Firefly was literally the only kind of fire DPS that we have. And I know that Himeko SP is coming out, that people are speculating, oh yeah, it's going to be another fire DPS as well, but that's going to be very long away, by the way, right? And also then again, Himeko SP not being fire is also something that could also happen in games like Honkai and stuff like that. Not necessarily she has to be a fire because she's Himeko, by the way, right? So, but Sparksy in this list being a fire DPS totally worked out. So I was just woken up by like, I was like, okay, maybe I don't need to invest on Firefly's whole entire team like Dahlia, Lingsha this late, because once I get Silverwolf SP, I can just move on from the whole entire Rappa meta, and I don't have to always feel like, oh, I have to rely on Rappa because I don't have a good imaginary female DPS that I have enough, because nearly the whole entire lineup never really had a female DPS at all in Honkai. It's literally a lot of males in the imaginary, and Rappa was the only female DPS that we had. So Silverwolf caught that kind of like a lineup pretty easily, by the way. And it's not just that itself, but the whole entire design, the global passive and the kit and everything they did with Silverwolf is very interesting, by the way. And the animations and everything they did for like Silverwolf SP is pretty unique and very interesting, that they created so much of like effort and talent and skills they put so much for Silverwolf SP in general. It shows like how much they love this kind of character as an anniversary main push. We were shocked to see how much they loved Silverwolf, by the way, because we were not expecting them to be giving us this kind of level of character, by the way. I'm not a huge fan of Silverwolf, but I was impressed, majorly very much extremely impressed with like Silverwolf, and I was like, wow, okay, like this is the level that they did. And it's just everything about what they did for her is insane, apparently, for this character itself. Yeah, and the element was perfect. I loved it. And then the team with Sparksy that was there, apparently Sparksy is a very nice DPS that I really like, because as a fire DPS it just is perfect, by the way, that you don't need to rely on characters like Firefly anymore. It's a fire DPS that you can just completely move on and just have that lineup that you can just have and just move on from break. And I really like that part, because it's a new team and it's a new DPS and a new lineup and etc. We know that it's strong enough, by the way, compared to these old super break lineups that's falling off pretty bad behind, and you need to have E2 for you to make it doable in current endgames. And it's gonna fall off even more even after the buff. Apparently it's eventually gonna fall off even more, by the way, right? So I think Silverwolf SP is a very nice DPS, and we're all grateful for this kind of character. So really nice. I'm absolutely enjoying it though, I would say though. So thank you. That's all I wanted to say. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys in another video from Honkai Star Rail patches, by the way. Thank you for being here. See you guys. Bye bye. Take care. I love you guys all.